Well, happy Thursday, everyone. Hope everyone had a great July 4th. So, we are actually talking about understanding the deeper meaning of herbs, herbs signature that can impact not only our physical body, which we kind of know, but also our emotional senses. And that's what Gemma is here with us. She is an Ayurvedic practitioner as well as an herbalist, joining me from beautiful, beautiful town of Rome, Italy. Thank you so much, Gemma.
Thanks, Amita. Yeah, so I would love to discuss, let's talk about herb signatures. And first and foremost, what is an herb signature? Because it's kind of a broad term. An herbal signature is essentially its composition, right? Its elemental proclivities or its nature, right? It's its specialty. And a lot of herbal signatures, especially when we're working with herbs, are known within the physical attributions. We look at it from a chemical standpoint, right? We look at it from polyphenols and all of these terms that really are targeting more of the physical aspect. However, there is an intelligence that lies behind those compounds, which are the signatures that really start to work a lot of their magic on the subtle body, whether it be mental and emotional. Now, I want us to focus on emotional because mental body can get a little different. Now, for many of you, you might be already familiar with the subtle body aspect of herbs, whether it be in flower essences or gem elixirs. But I want to talk about the actual compounds of the herbs. And really the key into understanding signatures is understanding its qualities. And this is so important because it helps us understand how it can actually heal the emotional body. Now, the reason it will heal or work on the emotional body is, again, it's this underlying intelligence, right? So let's take a step back here. There is, within the mental body, we are conscious of things, but sometimes we are unsure what lies within our emotional body. And this is why these herbs are really important, because we know that whatever is within our tissues will manifest. Whatever is on a subtle level will come into the physical level. It's that adage of we begin to embody that resonance. And so whether we approach the herbs from an emotional standpoint, or if it is a physical imbalance or trauma or injury that has brought us into these herbs, you can begin to understand that herb's application within the physical realm will actually start to work on some of the subtle aspects in the emotional realm. So let's focus on the back, because I wanted to pick 3 herbs for everyone and just kind of break this down. The herbal signatures are essentially correspondences. They have an emotional and a mental correspondence, as well as a quality and a characteristic. In Ayurveda, we know this as the doshas, right? The doshas are a composition of the elements. But when we peel back the doshas, we see these elements in their raw form. And this is really where the key lies, because these elements also indicate the emotional connection. So, thusly, the corresponding connection. We can see pitta with fire. When we pull back fire, we can all see fire represented not only in the aspects of inflammation and whatnot, but it is also the aspects of transformation. It's anger, it's vision, it's foresight, it's having a sharp mind and memory. There are different aspects of these elements. And so these herbs really will begin to work, if we go from a physical level, begin to unfold on an emotional level. The best part is you can flip it. And that's really what I want to talk about, is if something is occurring emotionally and it might not be physically into a ailment yet, right? It's not embodied fully into form as much. You can actually start to undo by going through the emotional aspect. Let's say you notice that you're really angry and you have a lot of tension in your shoulders and there's a lot of anxiety that's building up. What you can do, instead of going for the herb that might be birch or arnica that helps relieve certain tension, or agrimony, we can start to look at what is occurring in the emotional body and then finding that unique signature. So the same quality of agitation, of stress, in essence, essentially is the fire that is being prohibited in terms of movement. There isn't a balance between air and fire, right? It's becoming congested. So you can take the nature of your emotions and start to understand where is it in the physical form. This will give a indication to the herb that will help treat that physical form. But even if it's not in the physical form, if you just feel agitation and tension, by looking at the nature, because agitation is different, right? There's emotional agitation where you feel like you're going to cry or you just can't get a hold of your emotions, that has a little bit more watery effect, versus a frustration of agitation, right? So there's different aspects, but these are the signatures that actually unfold the wisdom of the herbs. It helps us understand that when we go from that level of that intelligence, it will work on multiple realms, multiple bodies, not just a one physical point in the body or one ailment in the body. It's not like one organ system or whatnot. It'll actually start to unfold into multiple realms. This is Ayurveda, and essentially we're understanding how the herbs are working the spiritual, the physical, the mental, and the emotional. But it's hard to pick. How do you know which herbs to pick for the emotional, right? And that's where I'm saying we can unfold it by, if you take a step back and look at what emotions are arising, or even the nature of a injury, right? That will indicate the signature or the herb that will work on multiple realms or multiple bodies.
Okay, I think that's fascinating. So now, maybe if you don't mind giving us an example,
Yeah.
let's say emotions are, all of our emotions have been a little bit on the roller coaster ride for the last couple of years, at least, I
Oh,
would say,
right. Absolutely.
right,
Yeah.
with COVID. So I don't know, just take some example. One example would be a hormone imbalance, some women either going through PMS or perimenopause, menopause, some mood swings, right? That's one kind of emotion that happens, or the
Absolutely.
emotion is of some mental anguish from the news that we are watching every day, shootings, COVID. So it's such a negative media, right? And
Right.
emotion
Right.
translates into, vibrates into everyone's brain into, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. Not
Right.
that literally, but all that. So how do we translate these emotions that are embedded in each one of us and see which herb to pick to uplift my mood? Simple as that, right?
Yeah. Wonderful question. Well, if it's hormonal, at first, when hormonal changes start to affect the mood, it's not as obvious, right? It doesn't happen until I feel like the effects compound. And then we start to notice a difference between a hormonal effect within an emotional, like for women, if it's premenopausal or postmenopausal, even even on PMS, right? Some women might not know the more subtle aspects that are starting to change within the hormonal levels until they start to get aggregated, and then they start to have more of a stronger sense. So if it's a hormonal, that's completely different, right? Then we want to look at, then the emotional effect will be the effect, right? Then we want to look at more of the what's occurring within the body and finding that signature. So from that point, we look at the body and we look at if it's hot flashes, right? Then we're going to need something ayurvedically opposite, something that's cooling. But why are those hot flashes, right? What's occurring that we need to bring another balance into? Because that same hot flash is going to show as irritability. It's going to have the exact same emotional expression as it is having within the physical form. They are not two, and they can't be separated. It's just simple consciousness going into a more gross expression versus it's just a different expression. Hormonal is a watery, fiery nature. That's why we're going to see fluctuations in body temperature and things like that. But let's go into anxiety and insecurity, because with all of this that's occurring around us, there's a lot of external news or whatnot that is influencing or creating more of an anxious nature, which is also creating a lot of insecurity and instability. These qualities, these emotions have become so uniform. It's almost become a norm in everyday culture, right? To be anxious or have to be busy and to have a little bit of that wires fried, right? What happens is that emotion, that influence creates this insecurity, and that begins to manifest in 2 points within the body. One in the upper body, in the shoulders and the tension in the neck. We can see that here. And then also in the lower body, we see that with femoral. So your thigh bones not actually connecting or moving back into the hip socket. It creates a dissonance or an imbalance in the hips and then creates a lot of low back tension. This area here is the essence of movement, of stability, security, but it's movement forward. So when we're looking at that, let's say you're feeling you're more anxious and there's a lot of tension in the neck. This anxiety is going to be a nature of, okay, here's another key. Notice for your viewers, notice the mode of recipient, how you receive that agitation. Is it something that somebody said? That's going to be hearing it. Did you see something? Are you watching the news and all of a sudden that is creating your anxiety? That is vision, it's fire, right? Are you eating things that are like emotional eating? That's water-based. These are also keys or signatures to it, right? So if I'm hearing things that are going to make me agitated, I know that it is more the air element. If I'm watching something and it's causing headaches, it means my fire is imbalanced. That's a key to understanding. And then the emotional effect is repercussion, right? It's creating a cause and effect. Now, notice then it's not immediate. It can be within 3 days. And this is something I tell my clients, watch 3 days before what happened before that emotion, because it becomes aggregate. But let's go back into the insecurity and the tension. The herbs for this are going to indicate not only how are you receiving it, what's causing the source of tension, but in addition to that, I would recommend agrimony. Okay, let's break this one down. Agrimony is amazing, and one, it's a pain reliever, but it also helps in oxidative stress. And so for its uses now, predominantly are to help in inflammation and oxidative stress. It also has a propensity to help relieve the tension around the neck. Now we'll take a look at that. It's great against anti-inflammatory. It's great against pain. It works against the muscular tension that starts to happen. And it's a reactive aspect, right? So it really does help in terms of the cellular response of inflammation. So that gives us an indication that it's going to change the makeup of, or the way that the body is responding to this feedback. Agrimony has a natural connection, like the spleen almost. It's almost like a life cycle kind of changing, right? And so if you have a lot of tension, if things are moving around too much and you're hearing it or you're seeing it and you're getting these tension headaches, then you know that it's lifting, right? There's a stagnation. Notice the qualities, because everything is a little different. If you have knots in your neck, that's an indication of earth or stagnant earth. It's creating that signature is simply saying energy is bound. It's not moving, right? So then it can indicate, is the external stimuli making you feel stuck? Does it make you feel like you don't have as many options or things? There's a replay that starts to create this feedback loop that we are unconscious of, right? Let's say that we're watching the news and it feels like you're insecure, or I don't know what to do. I don't know how. It makes one naturally want to move, but feel insecure on how to proceed. So those fight or flight, we have the key positions here in the neck and the hips. This begins to contract. It's a natural protection mechanism. So when we're looking at this and we say, okay, there's a signature of contraction. There's a signature of this non-movement, this bind, okay, and it's coming into my body. There might be something that I'm unaware of mentally that makes me feel like I have less options or that my liberties are being compromised. Whatever it may be that has this energy of stuck, we can look at that and understand, okay, well, that's the signature. What's the match for the signature? What I'm saying is there's such an intelligence that lies beyond just the physical application of herbs. You know, if I want to look at for oxidative stress and inflammation, yes, agrimony is great, but what is it? Why does it have those qualities? It has those effects within the body because of its own personality, its own nature, its own signatures. So tuning into how you feel or how things are received is a better indication of that herb not only healing that physical manifestation, but also starting to become in like nature to heal the opposite, right? Or the more of the subtle. Okay. Do you have
I
any
think
questions?
that's powerful. It's very complicated for end user like us to understand it. That's why we need someone like you who has such a deep understanding and of how the herbs can interplay not only our physical but emotional well-being, right? And that's what we are talking about today. That how different herbs have different kind of properties, and I think it's fascinating. I would love to learn more on herbs, and that's what we are going to include in our platform. I just wanted to say that understanding the herbs, using the natural therapies should be our first go-to strategy. Our medicine, food as medicine, and herb as medicine. Anything else you like to say? This is a quick 10-minute session that we bring on a daily basis, Gemma.
Yeah, if you are noticing a like being agitated or whatnot, whatever, you don't have to know all of the science behind everything. But as always, the more you tune into how you are interacting and how things are interacting with you, you are going to become the best proponent of your well-being across the board, even more so than any medical practitioner. You can only speak for you. So when you are tuning in to your own cause and effect and how it is manifesting in your body, you're able to better connect with a practitioner that can better serve you, and that you, from that point, will better understand your own natural state and proclivities and the way that you interact with your own environment. This, in essence, puts the power back in your hands and brings you into longevity and well-being in terms of, we just always have to go back to nature. It's the simplest way. Everything we have and need is already within us. It's just tuning in on how to bring it all together.
I think that is so powerful. Nature is so powerful. For some reason, in the last 23, 30 years, as a society, we have shifted away from nature and focus more on everything manufactured, processed, artificial, including artificial intelligence now, robots,
You're right. But if anything has proven is that we aren't smarter than nature. We're not. Look at our world. And the more that we disconnect from a wisdom that we don't understand, that we think we can manipulate, we cause more dissonance. It's like taking the aspect of salicylic acid and putting it separating it from white birch. Now, double-blind studies, clinical studies have proven that it's not as effective in the body as if it's in its natural form, because there are supporting compounds that bring everything into harmony. And so when we understand that everything comes in a full picture, all things are interconnected and all things support one another, we can better understand how we play in it, right? And how we're part and parcel of nature.
Absolutely. I think we have to shift our strategy from injecting our tomatoes and everything in between right, to going back to what our grandparents used to do. Was a simple life, very simple life, right? So that as a society, we have to go back to the basics. So thank you so much. Amazing, very insightful, very intriguing, beautiful, amazing topic. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and taking the time to come and educate all of us on this really invigorating and intriguing topic that I personally think.
Pleasure to be a part of the community and to share. Ciao, Susie. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.